I'm going to explain the difference between paper Bitcoin and exchange Bitcoin and spot broker Bitcoin. Because those are three different things. Exchange Bitcoin until you withdraw it, that liquidity is there, it's on their books. It's not on your bank, it's on their books. So you look at it like that specifically. You have to see where the ETF holdings are for the spot Bitcoin. And if you don't know how it's held and why it's a spot ETF, you need to look into like fundamentals on how stuff gets explained. That's my recommendation. Uh, but the spot Bitcoin ETF means that they have to buy it every time you make a stock purchase of that ETF, that exchange traded fund. They have to accumulate the asset in order to back the fund. So in order to have the fund be an accurate money pool, they have to have the hard asset. If there's no hard asset, what will happen is either people will freeze the books or it'll instantly go to zero because the liquidity won't be there for any brokers to process, depending on how they decide to manage it. Because then if it becomes their liability on the broker side, they're not going to deal with they're not going to deal with their liquidity problems. They just don't. Shit will get frozen. The only thing with spot broker ETF, if depending on the broker you have, the only one out there that has years of experience holding their Bitcoin is Fidelity. Uh, I think the way you hold your Bitcoin, you have to structure it properly because they can't protect you from your own liability, but you have to take into account their counterparty risk. Each one of these players has counterparty risk, each in a different way, and they can all fail at the same time. It's just that's the lowest probability scenario. Crypto has an odd way of like making that shit happen. But to actually be realistic and say that this kind of has to function and breathe for it to work in the long run, ETF Bitcoin held by Coinbase, because what they are kind of is just like we hold the keys to all the Bitcoin and we're the security guys to hold all the spot Bitcoin brokers. That's basically their role, is to be like feds, like just straight up, like if I'm being honest. Now, don't lie to them. Don't lie to them. Like you know, but that's kind of like more their role, but not fed. Like they're supposed to work for both sides. That's why they're the exchange and they're the mediator. But because they're the biggest exchange, Coinbase doesn't understand a Satoshi era wallet could wake up and wipe them out. Will they do that? Would Coinbase help another exchange rise to beat their platform? Fuck no. Fuck no. But the reason you don't want to piss off Coinbase, if you have that much Bitcoin, you need access to those OTC deals, those over the counter deals. Those over the counter deals. You need access to that shit. You need access. Um, and you gotta, it depends on how much liquidity you have, because how much Bitcoin you have, the liquidity each within those stacks is going to exponentially increase over time. So liquidity is going to be provided to you, not the other way around. When you look at it like that, off of like a Bitcoin in game scenario, you say, okay, to spread my risk, this is the Bitcoin that I'm okay with being on the public books. Motherfuckers that what's gonna be common ground in the next couple years. No, what if you say it in the public eye and you have too much power financially, and you say hold your Bitcoin in cold storage and don't tell anybody, you're gonna get accused of like telling people to do terroristic shit. I don't have time for it, so to pay your taxes, and don't hide shit off the books. Nobody's telling you to do that. But to tell people that you can't offer technological aspect, you're just lying to them about the truth of Bitcoin. The truth of Bitcoin is is you don't have to pay anybody. Is that the smartest thing to do? Fuck no, because if just because you don't pay anybody Bitcoin doesn't mean they have to trade you for shit either. So when you understand that, you have to maintain the social relations if you want to spend your liquidity for shit. The people that you play with, that matters. The people that cultivate in this space to get your Bitcoin, that matters. How you get on here on the internet and talk about your Bitcoin holdings in the future, that matters. Because in order to talk about it correctly, um, I'll give you an example. If you get in a legal situation, you cannot afford to have all your crypto off the books. Because when you get in court, as soon as you talk about bail, you got to be able to provide liquidity on what you can sell right then and there, or liquidity you got in cash right then and there to get up out of jail. It's other situations that these liquidity providers provide, and their problem is they don't want to hold up their end of the bargain until you need their actual service like that. They're basically playing, except like Fidelity, um, because what Coinbase does on the spot ETF side is shady. But because of the names behind it, it's not their actual books or their security. It's just they're the biggest in the name. They've got BlackRock behind them. If they fuck up, they're setting this industry back probably back to 2015. Easily. Easily. If they fuck up, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that bitch is gonna bleed. That bitch is gonna bleed down. It's gonna bleed down. It has to. But in order to hedge against all scenarios and actually have that experience, what they do is they abuse you in a way where they're not providing you with enough information to actually make sure that somebody makes it in these markets, in my opinion. And my opinion kind of is the fact that people keep losing on these order books on every single thing that they provide liquidity to, that's a problem. It's not saying that the first entrants don't hit a profit and loss. Why the fuck is nothing profitable on a 5, 7 year scale with altcoins? It was different to say that. I want to say in 2021 specifically, because you're in the middle of the road. Now that we're not in the middle of the road anymore, because if you keep thinking that, oh, now is your 2021, no, you're getting it twisted. 2021 was it was always still going to be the middle of the road for people that decide they want to get their shit together or not. Just because you're late to the party and you buy at higher prices doesn't mean you actually doesn't mean just all this just started happening just because you came to the party. No, people have been seeing this middle of the road. Okay, we're gonna give altcoins a chance because we actually got enough liquidity behind these books to make all this wild tech shit happen. Finally, finally, that was 2021. The recovery into 2021 levels. You abuse the fuck out of all the liquidity into the same liquidity levels provided by the federal government, literally. So you abuse the liquidity in the system, it leaves. Then you bitch and moan about why there's no liquidity being provided by the Fed outside of just stable coins straight up right now, and Ethereum bankers and Bitcoin ETFs and 401ks. And you bitch and moan, guys, about why, and this isn't Coinbase, but about why there's no altcoin season. For whenever you realize and happen to come across this video, because you have to realize it, humble yourself, get humbled enough times, and come across the right information at the right time, and so happen to not fuck up anymore and try to develop the discipline and understand that less returns, less risk. Somebody say it. Less returns, less risk. I don't know why people, it's different when you admit at one point that you get caught up in these hype cycles or whatever, and you get caught up in these hype cycles and so, or whatever. Um, but again, like, I mean, I come on here, I'll be honest about it because I'm trying to So now they're processing my payment right now. They're processing. You just took all my money. And they're talking about bank statements. They wanted me to provide bank statements for an exchange that just cleared my fund. I'm not even. Why the fuck am I providing you guys with more confidential information? You want my fucking, like, you already have my account numbers and shit. What is there for you to not have? Check your books. Check your books. Don't check my books. The fact that you even think you can make an argument to say you need to check where my funds are coming from, the fuck, you already got the money. Don't even pretend like the money ain't valid. If you're talking about, oh, my money's not valid, okay, I'm not the exchange laundering billions of dollars with government protection. Okay, we want to get real about the government and Coinbase. Whatever the fuck Gary Gensler did, that was basically y'all free pass to scam as much as possible because he's talking about security, he's talking about regulation by enforcement. What you're telling me is we're not going to do shit until some shit happens. So it's basically got to get to a point. The only people that can do shit about this problem is Bitcoiners. People that play the fiat game, they can't compete with Coinbase. The only people that can compete with Coinbase, the only way anybody on any way is they can compete with Coinbase is trying to weave them for what the fuck they do, and is they're hunting for your liquidity on a large time frame. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be in a small way tomorrow. But because they know the fees add up, but they know by the time you notice, bro, what are we, dog, what are we talking about? You get to be so fraudulent to the point where you become a financial overlord, and now we actually have everybody that actually understands this shit essentially having to weave and hide out from all these sick financial abusers that want to take finances, your future retirement, basically out of your mouth. And that's supposed to be the solution to the future of tech. I don't believe that's why Coinbase can succeed, and I don't believe. Now some of these projects they're gonna go into their golden era phases, and if you want to participate in that, okay, you just have to acknowledge legitimately how many satoshis you're actually willing to give up. Because it's kind of like what Benjamin Cowan is saying, but I know he's been saying it for a long time, so I guess that's why he simplifies it, because he just has to stop giving a fuck for his own mental health. I get it, but when you view it in Satoshi valuation, and then you go 1 Satoshi, 2 Satoshi, hundreds of Satoshi, hundreds, like in the 200K Satoshi range, in the 1 million Satoshi range, you know, if you really like understand what you're playing with, anything, because when you're talking to mature Bitcoiners that have actually been here and don't fucking leave, and don't just play these fucking games with people, to do so and so, it gets kind of weird, because when you're trying to give advice on how this stuff works, but then you're being honest about it, it's about kind of how you go about telling people, because people just watch you tell everything about how you secure your funds, and they won't um they won't actually help you. So I'm gonna be getting in a private Bitcoin security. I guess I have to figure out how that works because it has to be to a point where we have to ensure in the smallest amount before the liquidity builds up, basically, to be a micro private security kind of like it's not the idea isn't a treasury. The idea is to maintain the right kinds of software and the versions of the code literally to such a fucking degree because all when you say, oh, this exchange and wallet app got delisted, no. What happened with this kind of app, if you get fooled by UI, user interface, and you don't understand that if you don't understand code today, you need to start learning code today to understand that with private Bitcoin security, you're going to have to be doing sweeps of all the code, public, private, analyzing all that risk that you're taking for all your clients, and not just offloading that risk to someone else's books. And then you can actually make money like that if you will have to have lockup phases and open phases for that shit to work properly. Because no way in hell can we say people can exchange as much as they want on our books and we're gonna be able to maintain liquidity. Fuck that. We're gonna have to deny certain type of customer and not be deemed as an exchange and actually be a private Bitcoin security broker. That's the idea. That's the idea. Because in order to make that business model run correctly, that's the next layer. People that can actually make it in this industry, hold shit in hardware wallets for people, without actually losing it. And I don't mean no, the game isn't we issue you Bitcoin. No, what you deposit with us is what you deposit with us. We prove our holdings on private books that never get moved until your money is lost. The fuck? And that's a liquidity problem solved. You over collateralize whatever you're trying to sell to these people. Like, damn, it's not that hard to scam. It's not that hard to scam. But it's even harder to be the guy that beats the scammers and actually succeed and take all their fucking money. In any capacity, you win. Now, there's levels to this shit. Like I'm not gonna be doing it to the point where I get death threats for this shit. No, if there's too much Bitcoin to hold, we have to offload that shit back to you. Because what we're not going to be doing is having people get assassinated because they want to offload liability risk of being rich because they don't understand that people will take your life if you have too much money. So we're not going to be the kind of business model that that if we decide to do this in any capacity and holding shit in cold storage, but to say that once you pull your liquidity, it's actually there. That's the game. Is once you pull your liquidity, it's actually fucking there. Who can hold people's Bitcoin in cold storage and not be corrupt? And actually maintain moral, consistent, high ground each individual step of the way. And not just offload to their customer base and overscale to the point where their customer base now if the customer base gives up on actual providers of the brokers because they don't actually want to give a fuck about their communities and who they're actually how and literally how people go about not raising money but and how people go about um protecting people's capital. The goal of capital, gentlemen, is kind of like to be like a shield. You're not losing money. We're putting money in your fucking hand before any amount of money gets started. If we today, capital gentlemen, can secure enough Satoshi valuation before you even come to us, we're giving you money in Satoshi valuation. Fuck the USD. We're giving you money in Satoshi valuation after like 15 layers of background checks because we're not going to be funding criminals. But after like 15 layers of background checks, then we fund you and you match the collateralization. You contribute to every other company ecosystem member. You whatever the fuck. How it gets collateralized. But the problem with this is the state to state regulation on how Bitcoin can be held in a customer basis. Like, okay, do you have to be anonymous to do this? Are feds just gonna sweep up on your door because you just want to help people store their Bitcoin and you don't want to actually scam and they actually just literally accuse you of cold storing people's Bitcoin and taking it because they don't understand it and they snitch to the feds and there's so much US dollars to the point where they rain down on your fucking house, throwing your Bitcoin, fuck your setup, fuck this, fuck your assets, fuck your risk management, fuck what we just did, fuck the fact that this specifically coded device, you can't get back into it if you don't have 5 fucking devices already there. Dumb shit like that if you don't understand tech, you have to have backups of backups of backups, and to understand it at the retail level like that before you even start competing with motherfuckers in this industry that basically have juggernaut mined this bitch down into the ground, or however strategy that they decide you're not going to be getting this amount of money. Like, okay, you can have money, you can eat today, but actually, we decide that this is the amount of money. Even if you don't give a fuck about it, we decide that this is the amount of money. This is the kind of money. This is the way we're gonna take your money, and you're not ever gonna see that shit back. You guys basically just started a fucking origin story. I was already like kind of joking about getting into Bitcoin, about getting into Bitcoin security. But we're gonna just start selling grade 2 titanium. We're just gonna start selling grade 2 titanium. The fuck? The reason why I'm saying that is because the premium on titanium today is one of the only metals you can hold Bitcoin on, and that bitch isn't gonna burn up. I don't need to teach you every method behind how to hold that titanium. No, fuck that paywall. I'm just gonna sell you the titanium at a premium. Because how do you know all the tests that we do behind our titanium is literally exactly the method that crypto tags, bro, it's like gold. That's like gold. I'll show you. Because to say that I'm going to start lying to you about it and being like trade secrets, no, nigga, this is just straight titanium. You can't burn it. You got to shatter this bitch with iron on iron in order for you to not get back your seed. And that's if you don't know Bitcoin, you can't get back your seed. Please. The fuck? This is Bitcoin. Anything is possible, motherfucker. What did you think this was? It's like a digital. It's not a digital weapon, but it's weaponized money. The fuck. Now to say that like it's a weapon in the sense of terrorism, no, fuck no, no. People be taking shit too far out of context. Fuck no. It's a weapon in the sense of like you got this metal here. It's the kind of metal and the properties that it holds and what it does. See, the thing of the beauty about Bitcoin, I didn't even understand that I knew metals until this year. I didn't understand that I knew metals until this year. I didn't. Because the metals, bro, the metals industry, the juggernauts have succeeded. Nobody knows about titanium in Bitcoin in-game theory. Nobody knows. Nobody knows about titanium Bitcoin in-game theory. Nobody knows, because when you look at it like that, you start seeing this for what it is. What is this? Oh, you see 10, because you're not looking at it. There's the mold to this. You gotta have that iron work to grade this shit. There's nothing on here, by the way. If you don't believe me, let me show you, nigga. Y'all motherfuckers federal. Y'all motherfuckers federal. This is basically, if you don't have one of these, you're playing with fire. Like, for your serious, like, for your ultimate serious, like, oh, I'm not gonna fail. Like, okay, you better have titanium, because that's why I say the bar to entry is so high today. This costs, like, this alone costs $150. Right. You get one piece like this, you puncture it, boom. And you gotta have your spring-loaded mechanism in that bitch. Boom. And usually the pieces will come out, and you gotta align them properly. And if you don't have your spring-loaded mechanism to etch this bitch, you're not gonna be able to write anything. So, and people be like, what's the return on investment? My brother, if you're worried about return on investment and you don't even have one of these, you're not even gonna have an investment. Because this is just layer one. To understand just this, to understand just the seed. To understand just the seed. Literally, to understand just the seed. That's when you start actually understanding that these Bitcoin services, what the fuck? Fucking microspring was caught up in this bitch. And then you put it back in the way it came out. Hold down, matching the internal, and then you load it back in, and then boom. But titanium, titanium miners just started their breakout, because titanium priced in Bitcoin is already happening. To understand that, you have to understand why this company is the Coinbase of crypto security, basically. They're more important than Coinbase, in my opinion, because everybody's losing their money without this company, even if Coinbase depends on this company. I guarantee you Coinbase doesn't know how to do this shit, because the way they practice their business model tells me that. You don't know anything about how to actually hold your crypto security, because your business model depends on the way another business makes their product. So if that's the case and you don't know how to actually, so Coinbase will probably get into the titanium etching business in their security model products again on that. But to actually get into it for yourself, titanium is pretty cheap out here right now. It's pretty cheap. It's very cheap. Too cheap. But it's very common. So to understand a couple things about titanium, it's not the profitability behind it. It's everything on how it's formed, how it's made, and what the purpose on that form of titanium is going to be doing in the metals that are in this kind of titanium. Right? Like, they don't disclose what's added to this titanium to make it this strong, but you can get a specialist to look into this and find out. But to take the risks of that, like I'm not telling anybody this shit besides what we just put out here publicly, because it's everything that has to get disclosed anyways. You can't just handle people's money, take it, not tell them how you're handling their money, and keep over promising them. What's going to happen is there's going to be Bitcoin companies out here that have a limited client base, and they're just going to be basically world renowned for not disappearing with your money. And that's basically the game. Is if you're not the exchange and you're not the miner, the next step is to just be the nigga that doesn't disappear with motherfuckers' money. And if you can do that, and if you don't know how to do that, the next step that's been out here is long-term consistent news. You're not going to get famous off the shit because you're representing a market. You become known based on how the market grows. That's why people remember my name, because they don't remember everything I did in fitness. Unfortunately, it's too saturated. I had to get known for something else, at least. And actually, it's not about how many views you have, but at least to have the content out there to at least be able to show a background of, okay, I'm professional finance to some degree, at least on the pro retail level, of like, at least from where you're at. It's not saying you have access to millions of dollars, but the actual level of finance, you're actually as professional as possible. But you're actually, in order to be a professional in finance, you're not going to know how to come up with your own ideas at first, but you eventually learn how to be your own creator in these industries that you so claim to support and want. If you want liquidity out of it and you can't know and you don't know how to contribute to it, oh bullshit. You don't really give a fuck about crypto. Oh bullshit. You don't give a fuck about smart contracts. So, and that's not what this is for. I'm trying to get the smart contracts so maybe there's a chance at understanding how to even compete with the motherfuckers. But unfortunately, the way smart contracts work, they have nerds write up all the things with their faces, offload the max liability to people with all the liquidity, have influencers be they get their cut, fame, quick money, basically being the made man. It's like, it's not mafia shit, but like how it works. You're the made man in crypto when you're the influencer guy. Because as long as you maintain your platform and you can guarantee that liquidity off that dumb user base, and you can keep attracting more users, you're the made man. Now, as soon as you lose what you can do for them, they lose what they can do for you. So it's the same thing. It's like, that's why it's the miner mafia. That's why it's the Ethereum cabal. Because when you're playing on Ethereum, also, if you don't know this, the reason why I'm talking about Bitcoin only, if anybody's going to take you serious in this space, you have to be Bitcoin only. Long term. Long term. If anybody's going to take you serious, people will take you serious short term. I want to say anywhere under 5 years in this space, people will take you short term serious about being Bitcoin only. But if you go the opposite direction and you start betting on bankers and then all these banking systems fails, basically every time you go back to Bitcoin to try to regain your reputation, people that know Bitcoin see that shit. And people think that we don't see that shit, but everybody that pays attention to Bitcoin on the Bitcoin level, you can't replicate the retail investor experience. You can't. So in order to do that, you have to actually not well no well the exchanges can. But in order to understand that at this level and actually provide security, getting into Bitcoin security, actually making sure motherfuckers can eat. But then when you do that, you're not working off weapons. It wouldn't work like that. It can't. There'd be too much bloodshed. It's like, until there's government vehicles basically protecting Bitcoin holdings, the best method might not even be able to hold for people, because having one person die horribly over any person's amount of Bitcoin, the company can't take that risk. We can't take that risk. Uh, because it's like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, now, because we're not saying we can prevent threat. No, fuck no. We're saying if we comply with people in any capacity, we're weakening the actual security of the network. But in order to inspire such a situation will also be to literally compromise the decentralization and security of the network. So you have to find, and it's gonna be a lot of just smiling, waiting, documenting crypto people that get killed. People people unfortunately that talk too fucking much. Um unfortunately, that just talk too much. It's not about how you talk about this with your face. I think it's very dangerous to be talking about Bitcoin as an American and not understanding what you're giving up. I've admitted that I can't go to multiple countries already, maybe even the entire world, just based on not just what I've already put out there, but like past fame, right? Past reputation. Fame isn't money, but past fame, okay. But then it's like to actually be like, okay, if you do become world renowned for a name, or if somebody finds you, or it could be like maybe you're not world renowned, it's a double edged sword. You're world renowned, but then people target you because you're world renowned. But you do what you do so well privately that you get targeted so well privately, individually, and your name isn't known well enough, and nobody gives a fuck to help you. So it's like that's a double edged sword there, because what's gonna start happening to a lot of these traders, like if you don't basically live in America, it's gonna be like a threat to your life to be like you're gonna have to basically go poor public. It's not gonna be a joke. You're gonna have to go poor public. Like you're gonna have to say, "Hey, I don't have any money," and that in some countries will be the only time where they'll leave you alone, because if they got any morals, the only thing you can try to do is appeal to people's morals. Because if you're in a country where you can't fight, oh, you're fucked. Why are you dealing with freedom money? You can't fight over the money that's real. Because it's like where people get fucked up with Bitcoin. The reason why all these other countries like Bitcoin, they believe that that's better than the U.S. Constitution. Fuck that. Fuck that. USA Bitcoin, nigga. I want my dollar to be just as powerful as the Bitcoin I associate to it. You think you're gonna finesse that easy? Abuse buying power the whole way. Switch the fucking currency over macro policy, foreign policy, central bank policy, local bank policy. And then try to tell me on a macro scale with these trickle down economics that do exist, but not in the way that Reagan said, but trickle down economics, like an actual how it's playing out, not ideals, how it's playing out and reactive, not predictive. Um, because like when you're trying to like use these signals, the time where you can focus the most literally be when it's the most quiet, and that's the times when you come up with the most banger plans. When all the noise comes in, it basically voids the plan. So in order to say that now, fuck the noise. All the noise that's gonna come in is people's true colors on what they've been willing to do for this money is gonna come out. That's why I don't really give a fuck about doing too much with explaining this shit to people in person, because if they feel like I have, and they do because they feel they can't even fucking prove anything, they just think there's a chance that people will do some real fucked up shit when they think that there's a complete guarantee that if they do that fucked up shit, they're gonna get away with it and actually profit. So, it's gonna be a case of like, can we get a Smith and Wesson on top of this signer? That's the case, and it's like at that point it's like who's legally in that field legally able to get away with some shit like that. It's not me. So to offload that risk to the clients or the traders or the actual, you know, you gotta have relationships with where you're holding this shit. Because there's no point in having titanium companies like basically be out there. They start targeting that client base, and they start targeting just that small client base, they'll wipe them out. That's how the mafia works. They'll wipe them out. If you don't know, so I'm not trying to be funny, but if you want to know how to stay legit in Bitcoin, You have to study all the criminals so that you know what to not do. And I'm being serious. I'm being serious. It might sound like, oh, he means it. No, I'm being dead ass. Like, if people get out here and try to literally flip what I'm saying is literally not ironic and you don't understand the literal words that I'm saying, okay, then you're fucking dumb. You're fucking boomer dumbass. Get the fuck out of here. Probably left because the only way to get rid of people like that is to straight up insult them. Anybody that is still watching, I'm not insulting you. That's how you get rid of people like that. But in order to like understand that, like, who's gonna be dying for Bitcoin? Fuck that, not me. I know Jesus Christ. People that are willing to do that job not for the money, but for the purpose of actually protecting people's money, not for the sake of having more money, but for the sake of actually guaranteeing that people can fucking eat. That's who you want to be in that security private business. But then people that go to jail for it is like, at what point does this become at what point does this shift from a shiny, happy-go-lucky daycare operation to then it's like Lotso and Toy Story 3? Because that's how business is. All business can be small business, but not all business can be small business and be good business. And not all big business can maintain its integrity enough and long enough and pull out in the game late enough to the point where it either doesn't get coerced or forced into smart, evil, long-term money. Fiat capital. Fiat capital. Because it's like all forms of fiat, you understand that? Okay, that's basic. People that reiterate that over and over, I think they don't get it. Um, I think that if you're caught up in the kind of metal, you, I base, I base my investments around industry because in a world to live in, that's the only kind of world that it makes sense to invest. These terms that you're hearing about personal finance only came around because they would stop bloodshed from actually fucking happening when people could get food in their mouths. You take away that ability to transact and get food in people's mouths, it doesn't matter how much money they have. Okay, you can't create resources out of Bitcoin with Bitcoin into food. You can have proxies along the step of the way, and they're the chains that make that process possible. But once you start actually negating how in the process by thinking how those chains go from Bitcoin to food, it's not literally you plant Bitcoin, but it's a process. You go through this, how it's made. You don't just bullshit on how it's made. You actually have to state the reality of how to get the liquidity and who actually has it, what they can do to you at the time in order to take the food out your mouth. And that's how you actually win. But then you actually have to be already stacking enough capital for those blowout events that are basically going to be the only reason the company survives. There's going to be mass blowout events, mass like fucking, I would say damn near mass execution eventually. At least like not in the USA, but I want to say fuck if this is really going to go global. Like basically everybody that keeps up with their Bitcoin in these third world countries, I don't know what the fuck to tell you guys. If you don't have a Smith and Wesson, why the fuck you better get into privacy coins and start deving from an arrow. Start hoping them bitches become popular because they keep taking the liquidity out of all the privacy coins, 51% attacking them. You guys don't have any kind of weapons besides knives. And or to get the legal protection of somebody that won't do you in and turn on you as your hitman, like, and avoid all the paranoia shit of like, and if there's a cartel out there, I'll say this: I don't fear you. I'm on my soil. I'm not going over to y'all side though. I'm not stupid. Fuck that. Fuck that. Cause it's too corrupt. If you don't know how to get around, if you don't know anything about being not in an all like white economy, all white country, and you think you can just go all anywhere around the world and get away with shit just because like you think you're white. And I'm not trying to be funny. I grew up in like basically prime scenario, all white school. I didn't go to jail or some shit, so I actually like know to use the knowledge, even though like all white school, that knowledge that I gained from that middle school, it was like going to fucking Harvard at 12, and then like all of a sudden I got mixed up in like schools that didn't really give a shit about teaching kids properly, and I had to figure it out on my own. But it's fine. It's fine. Because the school that I went to after high school didn't teach me shit. The experience that I had in middle school taught me more about money than anything, because I was in that bitch studying on some Obama shit. Nobody believes it, but it's like whatever. I'm trying to figure out how these people like not the whole time. Like I'm observing honestly, like as a 12-year-old would on how to get money, but I'm still not daft. I'll tell you a story. I was 12. Motherfucker said, "All right, we're going to a lake house." I was like, "Oh, okay." What the fuck? Bro, his dad built that house, bought that boat, and then I'm not gonna op on them. They cool as fuck. Family generational wealth, pull up with security, and you know, it was completely valid. So it's not like old white people don't know about money. No, I think white people, when they get into the global sphere of dealing with either minorities in this world, because it's separate. It's not to get to the complexities of races. I don't deal with this shit. I'm just talking legit. Oh fuck! What the hell? Had my arm up too long. It's the complexities, right? You have American citizens, minorities here that don't really understand the politics behind like your money, right? But then you have people in other countries that will never get close to their level of understanding. And it's not saying they're gonna understand either, and it's not saying the previous group has a better understanding. It's saying they don't understand the philosophies behind the money that make this shit possible. So, in order for the money to not just be money and actually chase life, then you don't need to die for this shit. You don't need to die for no money. Like believe in Jesus, don't die for no money. Like what the fuck? Give up all your bags in a moment where you're following Christ, not to preserve your life. Because even if you give up the money, if you did it to preserve your life, you're not gonna preserve your life. If you give up the money to somebody in a scenario like that where you're preserving Christ, then he'll preserve you. But it's not the other way around. But you have to be selfless in that way, because in a moment that's real, like you getting confronted with give up the money or you die, and you still might die if you give up the money. You have to at least take into account all these third world scenarios and all these second country advanced scenarios. Because Americans, like when they say like I want to go to a different country, I don't want to go to a country where all the rich people are turning it into a third world country on purpose, that conspire against my fucking dollars that I spend my entire life working for over here to translate into dollars over here, because the money in the way you tax havens I think are a scam. Because when you're a tax haven, what you're saying is the corrupt politics is just enough for that fiat capital at the time, for whoever can manage in translated currency to get by. But if you as an American give up your US citizenship, and you can't make more US dollars the same way you can because you were a US citizen once and you gave it up. If you don't know how to rebuild in a third world country, oh, you're gonna get fucked. You're gonna get fucked. I already thought about this shit. Because if you have no experience like traveling, if you have no experience like traveling with these business motherfuckers, like if you don't know how to lingo with people and talk to people to get them to actually, you're not lying to people all the time. Like you're not always lying to get by, but you're keeping it 100 and you're trying to give them what they need so they can help you, and you're trying to even see if it's the kind of person that can do that. I mean, that's an American capitalism thing. But if people don't know that they can capitalize with each other, and they only think, oh, violence, money, get money, sell money, you go into the lowest form of human nature. I don't believe in that vibration shit, but if you're going to that lowest form of human nature where you're just violent, It's not animal. I don't believe in that shit because when we talk about sin and the evil people do, animals don't do this shit. When humans do it, to be a physical creation and have free will to do some ultimate evil shit, and you actually want to do it and you're not helped by demons, oh yeah, that's some shit only humans can do. I gotta say, truly, 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 only humans can do it. Because we already know how much evil exists out there. But greater than he who. Wait, what is it? It's greater than he who is in you than he who is in the world. But I'm not trying to be Christian money about this because this isn't to get money. When it connects, it connects. When it doesn't, it doesn't. If people don't say that, don't know what the fuck they're talking about. This is me. But I'm gonna leave this here. I'm gonna leave this here. Because it's just it's just live stream. Because I want to say this: to understand titanium and accumulate it in the right grade in the amounts before it's processed. That's yeah. That's what I'm looking for. Um, Oh, I'm still live, bro. I thought I didn't even understand that I was still alive. Now I know how that should be happening to them streamers. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's why you. To be like, I was like, oh, it's over. Nah, nah. Oh man, that was funny. That was funny. People that I guess with streamers where they view what's the word, bro? Where streamers view like the opportunity today. Hmm. What's crazy about when you have a good physique, you don't realize you had to. It's every time. It's every time. You never understand. You have. It's every single time. I I don't feel bad about my physique now. Don't get me wrong. You always feel when you get that muscle atrophy a little bit because I've been focusing. I've always been focusing more on this crypto stuff before then, but I at least I have to be more consistent. Recently. But I have to, it's like about being honest about where you're at. It's like it's not a challenge to get back in the gym. It's like because the mindset, I have to like actually go on the journey of like switching my mindset um from this like what's it called this like what's the word, bro? It's like crypto. It's like this crypto. How should I put this? As like, huh? Whatever game. I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. I'll see you guys later. That was an hour, so I guess that's it for the live streams today. So, you guys, the crypto security. All right, yeah.